Greetings. Thank you for joining us, but our Tuesday night group through me in this time for this continued reading of Letter 8 of Christ's Letters. I'll give you the pages we're beginning with if you'd like to read along, which I highly encourage, or some just meditate, or some even fall asleep. That's not happened in the present, but it's happened a lot in the past, and it's all good because it's just Christ is still speaking to us directly. So we're beginning with the paragraph that begins with, "You may question a person. Do you really mean what you are saying?" And so that's where we'll begin tonight. So you may question a person. If you want to find it, then on a search, that's what you're looking for in Letter 8. Letter 6, if you're in the original manuscripts. So if you're reading from Christ Returns, Reveals Startling Truth, it's page 355, paragraph 2. If you're reading from the ebook, it's page 314, paragraph 6. If you're reading from the original manuscripts I just mentioned, it's page 17, paragraph 4. I think you're fortunate if you have those. It's still quite a blessing as we've seen them progress. If you're reading from the first draft toward its first publication, it's page 13, paragraph 7. And if you're reading from the second draft, just before it came out in publication of Christ Returns Speaks His Truth, it's page 259, paragraph 5. And all these collections of the exact same letters, generally they have not been modified, moving from one place to the other place in its evolution. So the letters are intact, the meaning, the nurturement and nourishment is all there. So I just want to share that. So with that done, let's take a moment to go into that place of stillness and silence. Let's begin. I begin with a few deep breaths. Allow my whole focus to be on the breath. I don't think about any thoughts. And I allow any thoughts to be there I just ignore them until they do not exist if there were any. This is the way I do it, not all the time. This is different methods I share for those who may not feel successful in meditation. Meditation is just saying I can control my thoughts, however that comes. Staring at a candle, yoga, oming, finding that mantra, certain positions, all of these. But the purpose for me of what meditation is to bring us into that stillness and silence of no thought. When we can control our thoughts, we can control our lives. That's why this is so important. Meditation is so important. So experience that stillness and silence, the peace, tranquility, serenity, calm. Confident, aware of the everything that can be produced in this very moment. In this very moment, as the sower and the seed, as we've cleared our mindset of any noise or obligations or any distraction, we've cleared that and allow that perfect, beautiful seed of life, of God, of Christ, idea to come in. It must manifest unless I doubt it. Doubting is like pulling it up. So as long as I don't doubt, as long as I nurture and nourish that seed and don't allow anyone to distract me from that vision, the seed must produce the effects of itself. And everything it needs, everything the idea of us needs to bring these ideas into full fruition are automatically provided abundantly. We are led and guided all along the way, all along the journey, to become that which is already within us. The oak tree is within the acorn. The Christ of us is within the Christ of us. These letters assist us, provide for us everything we need for the desire we have to come forth into full fruition. We've been called to do this not for our world, but for ourselves. To find the Christ within ourselves. And to, as Jesus showed us, so live this Christ that we become that light to all around. And the light automatically dispels the darkness. I have no fear, I have no worries, I have no concerns. I live a very free life because this light is always alive and well, nurtured and nourished. And I see the results of it, as we all do. When I use it backward, as well as when I use it in the right direction. The direction bringing me to the kingdom of heaven within. So experience this as we're nourished and nourished tonight. Tonight Christ continues his education on how to communicate, how to be in our confident being, how to be authentic to ourselves, how to stand in the negativity thrown at us in calm and peace, and listening, and not allowing it to offend or to have us defend it in any way. So as we open ourselves to these truths that make their mark on our society, as people stand up and speak our truth, we give other people permission to speak their truth. And in everyone speaking their truth and allowing their truth to be spoken and heard, we create a new world, a new existence for humanity. And all of us around the world are a part of this. We all participate in it. We're seeing great things happening in our politics in America. I'm seeing great things. Everyone's going to see what they want to see. I see great things the way I want to see them go, as others see great things the way they want it to go. But in it, the consciousness that we seek is a consciousness we become. The consciousness we become creates the consciousness, the form of that consciousness. So let us listen tonight with those inner ears, wide open to hear how to communicate, how to be a gentle confronter as well as a gentle confronted. Learning to apply the Christ in our communication. What a great place for it to show up, isn't it? What a great place. As we learn to communicate with love, people are no longer threatened. If they're not threatened, they're not reacting. And they see the joy of being true to self and the results of it. I find that when I'm true with myself, and I sometimes have a conflicting schedule conflict, okay? That when I state this to whomever because everything I believe is negotiable, even if I have to give it up at some point, I'm okay with that. But, at least speak it and see what happens. And it almost always works out better for the other person. So it teaches us, be true to yourself, speak what you want, don't be afraid to. As I learned in my second marriage that if I accept no for an answer, what can I lose by asking? That's common sense, isn't it? So if I've already accepted the negative or the no, then it can only be better than that, can it? So there's no risk. I'm okay if it's a no, and I'll be even more okay if it's a yes. So anyway, let's get to the reading. It's about communication, and to me, one of the most important processes in communication is having the ability to confront someone that we don't agree with. If we have any kind of issue with anyone, instead of going behind the back or around someone else, go directly to them. And I do it by inviting them to lunch or something. And I've been doing this, I don't know, for too long for me to remember when it started. But the first time is very difficult to confront someone because you know they're not going to be happy with what you want to say. So that keeps us from being honest. And when we're kept from being honest, we repress that which we want to say. And then every time we see something that aggravates that, it gets pushed down and I don't say it. And it builds up and builds up until finally I confront in the unhealthy way of attack. And when I attack someone, they draw back and then they react and they defend. Okay, very bad. I mean, it's very conflict. That's why I'm bringing this in, because communication, when we learn to communicate, we take all this conflict out of our communications. If we have no conflict in our communication, we have no conflict in our world. Okay, if everyone can speak honestly and openly, everything is negotiable, everything, because that from which all thought comes has a way of bringing it where everyone wins. And that's always one of the possibilities in the infinity of possibilities, that everyone wins. So, and the other side is when being attacked, as I shared with you, happened this past summer in 2018, that I was verbally attacked by my daughter-in-law, one of my daughter-in-laws, and she was just going way off on something that I did not see happen at all, but she saw this horrible thing that I said, and over 2 years it's been building up and separating her mother from my daughter-in-law's husband, so, but we didn't know the why, we just knew there were always excuses we couldn't get together. So through this verbal attack, I was able, because of these letters, I was able to sit there and listen and give her full audience. Understood that something in me brought this about in her, but I took no responsibility for it because it was not my issue. I had no intention of doing anything that she was accusing me of. But the important thing is when we're attacked, if we can just breathe and just listen and be the observer and the feeler of what that person's saying with compassion, not with sympathy. Sympathy is saying, oh, I'm in that same energy now, and now I have a way of feeling guilt or negative energies. But the best place to be is in a positive, confident place. I want to get to the bottom of this. I would like to resolve this this discrepancy, this conflict. There's no way I could do it there because she threw me out. I mean, literally, she's going to call the cops and everything. But I wasn't being belligerent. Just she wanted me out like now, and I don't do things now. So anyway, this is a great discourse. But I mean, I didn't mean to go off on this tangent. But it's saying that if we learn to communicate, not when, not if, but as we learn to communicate, as we read this letter over and over many, many times. I've been reading it since 2006. And every time we read it, it goes deeper. We get more meaning from it. So that's why this letter to me is so important, because Christ talks about communication. And I guess each time, especially now, when everything about political correctness, and I'm seeing the fragility of people's skin with how easily an individual or a person can be pointing a finger at the way someone dresses or doesn't dress, or the way someone addresses someone or doesn't address them, and all this stuff. And it's like, why don't we just let communication be what it is? And if it's a deterrent, learn to deal with it, so many, Martin said so often, he didn't want to come home with his kids being bothered by the N-word. He wanted to have his consciousness and the consciousness of his community to be above that, where I'm not going to let that distract me. I'm not going to let that bother me. I know it's coming from something that sees me as something that I'm not. Each of us should see ourselves as that God image that we are. Wow. Okay, that's way beyond. So it's about communication. I apologize for this, but perhaps I'll be able to go faster through it because I was ill on the night this was read, and Nathaniel read it. So Nathaniel doesn't doesn't have as much conversation when he's reading. So so there's a lot of pages. So anytime you want to stop this and come back to it, please feel free. You're not going to offend me at all. I'll be here when you come back. Okay, so I'm ready to begin with another drink of water. And thank you for this. This to me is why I think politics is so questioned, because we don't trust their communication. They have to read everything that they say. They have people writing their things for them, many of them. I know there are exceptions to those, but it's hard to distinguish between the exceptions and the rule. I respect the one that's off the cuff. And I give them lots of latitude in what they say. Because it's off the cuff, I let them not have it rehearsed or censored. They don't have the opportunity to censor it. So I give them lots of latitude in what they say. Again, communication. You may question a person. Do you really mean what you are saying? If the answer is yes, then it must be accepted, and the discussion should continue from that point. Never ignore what another person is trying to tell you, because you do not want to face up to what is being said. This is cowardice and gives points to your ego. Be brave and listen with both ears, open to receive the truth behind the words. You don't have to agree with them, but you also don't have to defend them. You must accept the reality of a person, whether you agree with it or not, even if a facet causes you shock or displeasure. Remember, you do not know the full circumstances out of which that human consciousness has grown into the present form. If you judge, criticize, condemn in any way, you have erected a barrier between yourself and that person, which will not be removed no matter how much you may wish to overlook everything negative in him and become friends in the future. Unknowingly, what you reject in him will remain in your consciousness as a foundation for future discords, which will build up and eventually outweigh the affection. Honest communication. Unwittingly, one of the tools I use is I know that when I confront someone, it's not going to be popular for them. It may be, I do it in as loving a way I can and everything, but I do it as a teacher, as a mentor, okay? And one of the things I claim, which my wife has given me in her understanding of our Science of Mind ministry, is that I don't have to know what to say. And my prayer is, I know what I want to say. I don't know how to say it. But I know something within me does know. And when we can go to that stillness and silence at the beginning, if we can go into that and listen, and it doesn't have to be that long, we can do it in a breath. We can do it in just thinking, oh yeah, let me get out of this thought to the one above it. So I just want to share that because that's another tool, I know what I want to say. I may not know how to say it, but something within me does. Unwittingly, this is still going on the negative, I'm withholding some resentment I have for this other person. Even though I'm overcoming them, this resentment is still in there festering. Unwittingly, you'll say things in the future reflecting your underlying secret mistrust or displeasure. Instead of accepting his weaknesses with love and helping him deal with and overcome them, you put him on his guard against you, and he will never fully trust you. Your ego and his ego will have had a secret battle which neither of you will be aware of consciously. So important to be always listening to what our feelings are. We're feeling guilt or shame or blame or anything of that, we have put ourselves in a victim mode. Now it's time to get back into my divinity, okay? And I do that by reaching above the thought I'm thinking. Love could turn to hate. Remember, your life is a state of consciousness in which thoughts and feelings are deposited as in a safety box. Let acceptance and caring be the steel of which the box is made. When you have an encounter with someone to whom you are drawn, if only in friendship, and you discover that there are elements in his past which are contrary to your principles, you have this option. A, you can remain in contact with him, fully accepting his past, and possibly in future situations, pointing out the characteristic logically and lovingly, helping him grow. Or if this is impossible, section B, option B, promptly removing yourself from the situation until you can see his problems from the perspective of loving acceptance, inspired by divine consciousness, and you find him receptive to your principles. Okay. We don't have to be in the presence of people we don't like. There are these beings we call energy vampires, where they just they are so needy, is the best way I can say it, that they're like a low pressure system in nature. They're pulling into themselves and they're drawing it from everything without. We're like the high pressure systems where we're radiating and expelling and diminishing and things like that, all naturally. So, give yourself permission. If there's someone you don't want to be with, you don't have to be with. We must honor our humanhood as well as our spirithood. You must never accuse a person of acting out of an ego impulse. All human beings are ego-driven to a greater or lesser extent. Never take a stance which will humiliate another. Putting down, bullying, claiming better than. All these places of separation are not love. When I was on earth, I urged people to forgive and to abstain from judgment, criticism, condemnation. The church has misinterpreted this as meaning you must please God by loving others and abstaining from the negative emotions. This is not what I meant at all. There is no God who needs to be pleased by your behavior. You are masters of your fate in that you always reap what you sow. All the foregoing pages have been directed at giving you details of how to avoid sowing weeds in your vegetable patch, how to remain healthy, happy, prosperous. A time will come in your spiritual development when you will awaken to the enormous gift you have in your head, the gift of creative, intelligent thinking, and you will also become aware of the enormous responsibility you bear towards the way you use it. I would repeat those if I were on the call, but I ask you to play it back. Just go back a little bit, probably less than a minute. There are wonderful people in your world who have used their minds in such a way as to gain insight and growth from the daily challenges in their lives. Step by step, by probing, analyzing, moving on to new viewpoints, higher understanding, they fashion new ideals for themselves. I'm going to reread that in the first person because I own this, and I would like you to own this also. There are wonderful people in our world who have used our minds in such a way as to gain insight and growth from the daily challenges in our lives. Step by step, by probing, analyzing, moving on to new viewpoints, higher understanding, we fashion new ideals for ourselves and our world. We adopt these ideals as guidelines for our future behavior. By these means, we are able to purify our thinking, our words, our actions, in order to redefine our mode of conduct in the world and of attending to relationships. We are self-made people, but rarely do we find that we have not also drawn strength, insight, inspiration, emotional stability from the higher source, divine consciousness, or their perception of what they may call God. I'm always listening to people's concept of God because I know it can only expand that which I already have. When on earth, I told the people a story, the parable of the 10 talents. I said that a lord of much wealth was going abroad for a while. He left each of his 3 servants a sum of money. To one he gave 10 talents, to another 5 talents, and to the last one he gave 1 talent. When he returned, he asked each servant what use they had made of the money. One said he had doubled the master's investment, and the other said he had gained half again, and the last man said he had sat on it, fearing to lose what he had been given. The master complimented the first 2 servants on their efficiency and ingenuity, but he was angry with the servant who had not attempted to make anything at all of the 1 talent left in his care. Each one of you in the world, each one of us, have our own amount of talent with which to work. If, on our own initiative, we find it hard to discover the best way to make a profit out of our personal talent and resources, draw on divine consciousness through meditation, and little by little, the ideas will surely come, and these will be exactly suited to our own personality. At the same time, consider how you have used your talents throughout your lifetime. Have you been engrossed entirely in creating happiness and pleasures for yourself? Or have you devoted also the upliftment or improvement of life to others? It is a terrible thing to have been given talents above the average and to end your lives having squandered them in self-indulgent modes of living. Whatever lessons you have failed to learn, whatever growth you have evaded, whatever development in spirituality you have deliberately avoided, are mountains you have created for yourselves to climb in your next lives. They will obstruct your path and will have to be dealt with spiritually, or again repeated in a future life. Christ talks about reincarnation a lot through the letters, if you're not aware of that, as an evolutionary process. It is not necessary to make a great way in the world, achieve advancement, or wealth, or fame. You can use your talents as a parent, seeking the best means of becoming successful in your job of promoting your children's well-being. What higher calling is there than to be a good, loving parent? And I take great pride in that when I look at my kids. I've got a son and a daughter, and they're, let's see, my son is, I don't know, he was born in 1970. I'll let you do the math. And my daughter was 2 years later. So that's their ages. And I'm so proud of them. I think I'm proud of them than if they made the honor roll. I see the bumper stickers. Proud of my kids for making the honor roll. I'm proud of my kids who never made the honor roll. But very beautiful, beautiful beings, very loving, very intelligent, very confident in their skin. So what higher calling is there than to be a good, loving parent? And I got that from my dad especially, who showed me the parent I did not want to be. I didn't want to be that punishing, threatening dad. I didn't see that as wholesome. So, and I didn't. More especially, if you take as your role model of the divine Father-Mother consciousness, which is entirely directed at growth, nutrition of mind and body, healing of mind and body, regeneration of mind and body, protection in every form, and the fulfillment of every need of mind, emotions, body, within a system of law and order and unconditional love. As a parent, have you measured up to the consciousness of your divine source of being? And each of us is to the way we can, we can only go by life's experiences. No one's given us, that could be a good course. But how many parents would take it, Okay. Some of the people who have made the best use of their talents have been servants. Those who have looked after other people's children with devotion and love, cleaning the house with conscientious attention to detail, creating a peaceful, calm, and caring environment for the employer with love and gentleness. These are the great souls, the ones who have made paths for themselves leading directly into the kingdom of heaven. And I was one of those in the workplace when I was in that for probably 25 years. I was these things. I was conscientious. I was friendly. People came to me for counseling. I mediated. It was great. It was in an engineering firm of information systems. It was just great. I played a very wonderful role there and did my job as well, and very respected for it. Alternatively, there are those who have used their talents for purposes of destruction of others, to feed their vanity and the cold emptiness within their own hearts, and I saw plenty of those also. Ultimately, their use of their minds has led to their own destruction. Think of those people in history and in the present time who have brainwashed others into rebellion. They have become dictators. Then think about the likely end of such dictators. Such people have abused the privilege bestowed by mind power, and they eventually pay the price, but not before they have ruined thousands of lives for no good reason. For there could never be a good reason for turning countries into war-torn wildernesses and ruining a prosperous economy. This is from the God perspective, not humans. The human mind, the ego mind, keeps us in the state of being. We're here moving ourselves above that and creating a new vision for humanity. Think of families where emotional and mental abuse is rife. This is an abhorrent use of mental power. It rebounds to the abuser in many, many ways. Ill health, sickness, sorry for the interruption. Think of the families where emotional and mental abuse is rife. This is an abhorrent use of mental power. It rebounds to the abuser in many, many ways. Ill health, sickness, addictions, depression, and loss of self-esteem. And I would put self-esteem at the beginning, because if we have self-esteem, all these others do not exist. This is why it's important to be patient with people, because we don't know what they're coming from. And they don't know how to express because they've been repressing this this abuse, you know. So, however, do not use your brains, intellect, insight, knowledge, education as a platform from which to criticize, judge, or condemn others who do not measure up to your own standards of efficiency of goodness in any area of your life. And it all comes down to comparison. At the same time, since to criticize, judge, and condemn is as natural as breathing to the human ego, okay? So let's not get upset with ourselves or others when we see judgment and criticism. This is part of our humanhood. This is what Jesus meant when he said, like, he was without sin, cast the first stone. He said, sin, what you're calling sin, is part of your human nature. We don't condemn one another for that. This is just something we have in common. We're responsible for how we use it. So at the same time, since to criticize, judge, and condemn is as natural as breathing to the human ego, do not attempt to deny your perceptions of what might be improved. So when I'm attacked in any way, it's up to me not to take it as attack. I listen because something in me had shown this to this individual, and if I want them to see something different, I have to present something different to them. Or not. If I'm happy being who I am and that's going to deviate from my peace of mind and I don't see the intent of it as anything harmful, then why would I have to change it? But I'm only there because of listening and listening and growing and letting that be a mirror of, oh yeah, I've got this place where I'm not trusting God enough, or I'm not loving enough, or I'm not understanding love enough, is what it really comes down to. So when I am criticized, allow me to listen on those things that might be improved. To do so is to deny. If I don't do that, okay, let me reread again. This time I won't interrupt myself. At the same time, since to criticize, judge, and condemn is as natural as breathing to the human ego, do not attempt to deny your perceptions of what might be improved. To do so is to deny the reality of the evolutionary process. The purpose behind existence is to experience and improve upon your experiences. Therefore, do not judge or condemn or reject the deficiencies you observe in others, but take your perceptions immediately to divine consciousness and continually ask for a divine resolution of the problem. I'm only seeing this in others because I'm allowing that filter to be there for me. Hold fast to the realization that wherever, whenever divine consciousness is drawn into a problem, the end result is always growth and development for all concerned. Try to bear in mind always, you are on earth to bring divine consciousness down into your daily life, into your relationships, and into your circumstances. You are there to use your minds for this special purpose. Okay. That's Christ talking to you now. Have Christ talk to me, collective me. Try to bear in mind always, I am here on earth to bring divine consciousness down into my daily life, down into my relationships, and divine consciousness into all circumstances. I am here to use my mind for this purpose. Going back to Christ talking to us. When I, Christ, said, I have come to help you find life more abundant, I meant that I have come to help you work through your magnetic emotional bondage and to find and make true contact with divine life, the source of your being. Out of this contact comes increased life, which far transcends the physical life you draw from your food alone. Out of this contact comes spiritual direction, protection, and a divinely inspired path. You should call this the path of Christ consciousness. Must be cold out, the furnace is on a lot. When you have perceived some deeper truth previously hidden from your consciousness, you must accept and rejoice that divine consciousness has penetrated your human consciousness and spoken within your mind, within your heart, within your being. Give sincere thanks and gratitude and treasure this gift and reverence it. Never take it for granted. Otherwise, you'll block full entrance of loving intelligence. Every time we give gratitude, we're opening for more. We're just putting that energy out there. It's like a sponge soaking. You'll wonder why you feel so alone again when we split apart. People speak of being transformed by the inner spirit. The terminology of inner spirit is not wrong. I've gone to great lengths to try to rid your minds of old terminology, which may have an inaccurate meaning for you. At the same time, I want you to understand that once you have grasped what I really mean, for I have been so grossly misinterpreted in the past that I do not want this to happen again, that's in parentheses, you must not be bound down by the terminology itself. So long as you know what the inner self really is, and Christ spells it out for us if you're not reading, it's in all uppercase, it's bolded, it's italicized, it's underlined, like this is the ultimate beyond anything you can even ultimately imagine. So long as you know that this inner spirit really is divine life consciousness operating out of infinite universal consciousness within us, okay, the spirit within us. And it has nothing to do with the spirits of the departed. You may use the terminology which has most meaning for you, provided it is the meaning given you in and through these letters. So Christ is saying, like I hear this from a lot of people, that they honor their departed because they're always talking to them. And knowing that of them, I know, but they also know that they are still an expression of that perfect divine consciousness that's coming from within themselves. To return to my original statement at the beginning of this new section, it is frequently said that people can be transformed by the power of the Spirit. Such a transformation is not possible. There is nothing real in your human self which can be transformed. Your soul has been drawn from divine life consciousness, and it is therefore perfect. Your human personality is ephemeral and composed only of magnetic emotional bonding rejection impulses. Consequently, divine life must gradually impregnate more and more of your consciousness to impel you to strip away or melt away or neutralize these gross impulses in order to reveal the spiritual reality. The spiritual reality. Be still and know I am God. The spiritual reality. The Father and I are one. Of myself I do nothing. The Father does all the deeds, the work, the healings, the miracles, the wisdom, the speech. Back to the letter. Perhaps I can best explain this to you by using a parable. A girl of great beauty was kept hidden within heavy gray veiling, and an ugly face was painted on it. Thus the truth of her being was kept secret, and few ventured near her because of her unattractive appearance. She grew up and realized that the cause of her loneliness and misery, loss of freedom of movement and health, were due to the veils. But she was so accustomed to them that she felt she would not survive without them. However, she was fortunate enough to meet an enlightened mentor from another country and was ultimately persuaded to discard just one veil. After much searching for the inner strength to do so, she begged her mentor to help her. He lifted her hands, and together they discarded the veil on which the ugly face had been painted, and she felt much better for having rid herself of it. She began to feel a sense of joy. After a while, she was eager to rid herself of another veil, and again her mentor came to her and helped her remove it. And so it continued. The more she shed, the lighter she grew, and she gradually glimpsed the reality of nature around her. And she could see the trees clearly, the birds on the boughs, and listened enthralled to their beautiful songs. She saw the beauty in other people's faces and began to feel the flow of love in her heart. Life was now becoming a truly divine gift to be treasured. Daily, she gave thanks to her mentor for helping her become such a happy person. Finally, the time came when she could no longer bear the final veil around her. She knew it was shutting her off from even greater light, beauty, harmony, and loving contact with other beautiful people. Although she did not know how, she did not know how she would manage without it, she retired into silence with her mentor and pleaded to have the last veil removed. This was a time of agony, since the veil appeared to be a part of her being. But she begged and pleaded, and in a moment of brilliant light, the veil was burnt off her. The form that was left was her reality, and she came into perfect inner freedom. However, her individualized reality now had to find a way to function in the environment. This was unexpectedly difficult. Because her perceptions of reality surrounding and within herself were now so clear and transcendent, the ground of her communication with other people had radically changed. She was no longer at peace in the social and business environment, nor could she remain a member of her community. People looked at her and said, "Oh, this is who you are, and you have no veil. How dreadful. We find you very odd, even a little mad." They turned their backs on her. What do you think she did? Did she go back to the time when she was veiled as heavy as others? No, she had found such peace, joy, and fulfillment of need. She left her community and went into a retreat and joined other souls who would recognize her true identity and respond to it with love and joy. It doesn't say it, I just implied though, I just this moment got it that these other people are veiled. So they're seeing her through their veil and they don't like it because she's not like them anymore. She's not restrained in any way. She's free. Tell me, was her veiling her personality transformed? No. With the help of her mentor, she removed her own veiling when she was convinced by her mentor, Divine Life Consciousness as her mentor, it was the right thing to do. As she removed the different layers of veiling, she came closer and closer to intimate knowledge of the reality, soul, or the reality soul, hidden by her veiling. The personality is the veiling. You can probably understand now that the human personality is like a mental emotional cobweb, sometimes a dirty veiling of mass interactions between magnetic attracting bonding and magnetic repulsion-revulsion. Spiritually evolved people can see this dirty veiling clouding the skin of people whose language is coarse and their thoughts solely centered around earthy ego activities. Alternatively, as an individual leaves behind levels of earthly thoughts and responses, the skin begins to clear, and a light shines in the eyes. While the earth personality is imperceptibly dying away, the body becomes more spiritualized. This is clearly visible to people who have the gift of spiritual perception. Wow. Do not be afraid of future withdrawal from earthly mindset. You will relinquish it little by little with infinite relief. Your true goal in life will become ever more clear, and your determination to reach it will grow ever more strong. It's like calling us forth, and we're yielding, we're moving into it. You may argue that you are not often mentally or emotionally engaged in magnetic emotional thoughts and feelings. But when you examine your spontaneous thoughts, you'll find that you are completely dominated by magnetic attraction bonding, and magnetic repulsion-revulsion thoughts all day long. Your mind keeps up a ceaseless chatter of comments and judgments, criticisms, wants, don't wants, reactionary feelings verging on resentment or rejection, longing for certain things and fears that the longings will not be fulfilled, striving for success, and irritation or anger with those who stand in the way of that success. Wow. I hope you pause this on occasion and sometimes even replay it, because there's some really very heavy and deep awarenesses in this dialogue. When the ego is in control, the one who prays does so with faith and yearning. When the ego is in control, the one who prays does so with faith and yearning. Immediately after prayer, on meeting someone, the trauma just taken to God to be dealt with in the right way is sorrowfully aired to gain the comfort of human sympathy. But the consciousness form and force released during prayer, the asking, the faith, and the yearning are now canceled by the self-pity. Be careful who we talk to. Be careful who we share our dreams with. Don't share them with the naysayers, because they can help tear the dream down. Talk to those who are going to support us. Definitely talk to spirit, the consciousness that gave us the dream, and keep talking to it and let it show us how fulfilling it is. The mind is usually a bog, a quagmire of conflicting ideas. During stress, a person may strive to focus on a life-giving affirmation or perception. But like a playful puppy tossing a paper bag filled with air, the thought is soon swept out of mind, and the stressful thinking person was trying to avoid has once again taken hold. And so it goes on in the mind, back and forth, until the person longs to escape the conflict. Like in the meditation, don't plant the seed and then pull it up to see if it's growing, Your internal dialogue will probably go along the line similar to, I don't want to get up. I don't want to get breakfast. I don't want to make sandwiches. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to meet so-and-so today. I don't want to do the laundry. I don't want to do this, that, and the other. And so the litany of rejection of life continues with thoroughly disgruntled people all day long. However, instead of mentally complaining, the dialogue may be along the lines of, I don't feel like. All these feelings come from ego drives, which reject such activities, since they are perceived to be a bore, uncomfortable, or a burden. Alternatively, you may wake up and say or feel, it's Saturday. I must hurry and dress and get to the market. There are things I want to buy. I must get some of those strawberries before they are sold out. I must get down to the sales to find some bargains. I'm going to speak nicely to my husband to give me some money. I do hope I see Patrick when I go to his office. I want that new boss to like me, so I'll work extra hard and I'll look attractive for him. I hope my husband buys the new car. I'm certain I'll find a parking space if I remain positive. I hope I get a bonus. All these foregoing ideas come from the ego bonding impulses I want. I want is claiming what I don't have. And in the law and order of the universe, what I claim is what I get. So when I'm claiming I don't have something and I want it, putting out in the future, I never get it. So it's claiming I have this now and feel it, feel the presence. Jesus taught us that in ask anything in my name, which means nature metaphysically, in the nature of Jesus is Christ. Ask anything in the nature of the Christ, believing you already have it, and it is yours, if you do not doubt. Mark adds that little caveat there, and that's a biggie, because that's what keeps things from happening, is our doubt. Okay, all these foregoing ideas come from the ego bonding impulses of I want. You may also string together several bonding and rejection feelings. I hope my children go to sleep early so that I can relax. I hate it when they call for water and want me to read to them when I'm so tired. But I ought to be a good mother and spend a little time with them. I hope that I can. I ought. Good mother. Spend time. All are connected by the magnetic attraction bonding. These are the things you want for yourself. These thoughts also arise from fears. Fears of being asked to do more than you feel you can do in this moment. Fears of failure as a mother. Fear is a direct impulse experienced from the ego which demands that you measure up in order to be acceptable to yourself and other people, and yet is very much aware that you do not. The self-critic is tough. But we don't kill it. We don't fear it. We accept it. It's part of our growth. So when I hear this negativity going on, this conflict going on, I invite it to observe, and then I have a dialogue with my higher consciousness. And I allow the ego to see it. And the ego says, oh, that's cool. I can live with that. With the development of civilization, the magnetic bonding rejection impulses have become so complicated and interwoven that they are difficult to differentiate and discern. I hate it. Call for water. Want me to read. I'm so tired are all magnetic rejection revulsion feelings. And since it requires more energy to reject and push away than to accept and bond with, the conflict within you will end up by making you feel even more dispirited and tired, even feeling guilty, but unable to find the strength to do what you would really deep down like to do. Spend more time with your children, read to them, and mother them. This would give you a sense of satisfaction and well-being, because at an even deeper level, you know that you would be experiencing and expressing love, whereas all the wants and don't wants are hiding the feeling of love. When you're in tune with your deepest recesses of being and are experiencing and expressing love, you are truly at peace and happy. In reading the letters on Tuesday night, I do a lot of repeating paragraphs like this, and I just encourage you to every now and then go back and re-listen, because some of these things are meant to be taken and meditated on. And I know I go much faster than meditating, but I'm attempting to give you the result of many meditations I've done around these letters to see if it helps you in any way. At the same time, notice that in this interior monologue, which goes on all the time in caring mothers, the little interjection of, I ought to spend a little time with them, is an insight drawn directly from divine life consciousness. But you'll probably believe It is your conscience telling you what you ought to do. Perhaps you're beginning to see that your mind and emotions are like a war arena with conflicting ideas following each other so rapidly that you are completely unaware of what you're doing to yourself. Your mind is a seesaw. Your beliefs, opinions, reactions change according to any changes you find in relationships and environment. A seesaw of likes and dislikes, resentment and friendship, possessiveness and rejection. All of this hubbub arises out of superficial understanding of all that is really taking place in your environment at a subterranean level. You are like boats sailing the seas. You can see the sky, but you have no inkling at all of the growth, movement, and life activity taking place under your keel. This means that you may think you are relating to someone in a real way, but underneath the surface and behind their pleasant exterior, your friend may feel lonely in your presence and aching to be understood and spoken to on a level more sensitive and empathetic, more suited to their needs as well as yours. Take, for instance, the following example. On the face of it, it appears to be completely harmless, both to yourself and other people, but an analysis will show you it is anything but innocuous. Here's a thought. I know I've had thoughts like this at times, and maybe you have also. I hope that bad-tempered woman is away from work today. First, to be able to make such a statement in my hidden consciousness, I reviewed her behavior and condemned her for the problems she causes by her bad temper. I have hung a label around her neck, bad-tempered woman. I have created a consciousness energy force with her name on it. It won't do her any good. I want, magnetically, not spiritually, that she should be absent from work to make life more pleasant for me. In the above statement, I reveal that I am in the grip of ego completely, since I did not pause to wonder whether she was subject to any problem of character personality, any hidden sickness, misery, financial problem, causing her to be short-tempered. The hope she will be absent is in the nature of a curse on her. If my thinking was sufficiently passionate and powerful, she will probably pick up negative consciousness energy force and suddenly feel too unwell to go to work. I put that in the first person so we could identify it more personally. The same principle is involved in the development of emotional tension into nervous breakdowns. At the onset of emotional tension, the mind and emotions begin to race with magnetic emotional rejection, repulsion, revulsion feelings. Again, important to be aware of the feelings because then I know what I'm thinking and I know if I need help. A person engages in continual thoughts such as, I can't cope, which is a rejection and outright denial of any existing energy that the person does have to deal with the crisis. I can't bear it also denies personal strength. I hate this happening to me. I hate the person doing this to me. I hate having to change my lifestyle. I hate, I deny, I refuse, I object, I oppose, I don't deserve. A particularly virulent consciousness form, thoughts. I'll get my own back is a mixture of magnetic bonding rejection. In reality, the consciousness of such a sentence is, I hate him and what he has done so much that I will teach him a lesson. I will do to him exactly what he has done to me. I'll make him pay. And I know as a child, and even in young adulthood, that's how I thought I dealt with situations. If I treat this person the way I see them treating me, they're going to want to stop. But that doesn't work as we find out. This is pure revenge, retaliation. Revenge is a boomerang which magnetically returns, bestowing suffering of some kind on the thinker. If he is on the path to Christ consciousness, it will also teach the sender a much-needed lesson. All these foregoing thoughts and feelings, including the killer resentment, bring on nervous, even physical breakdowns. There may be some people reading these letters who will remember my confrontation with the fig tree near Bethany. I was hungry and foolishly looked for figs when they were out of season. Oh, that's where we began. So that's where we end. So that's where we begin next week. So thank you for listening. I don't know if you did this all at one time, but if you did, many blessings to you. And if you want to get in touch with me, it's chapelinthesky@aol.com, no punctuation. And if you're interested in another of my YouTubes, which I think are pretty cool, they're all spiritually led, guided, and meditative, working to bring about world peace by December 31st, 2019. The YouTube channel is chapel-in-the-sky. The hyphens are necessary. And then just look down for my picture and you'll see me. So thank you for being with us. Let me know where you are on the path, on your journey, and let me know how you find the letters, and have peace, have love in your heart, in your mind, in your whole being, and take it into all relationships and all of your car, all of your possessions. Bless them all. They're here to serve us, but we don't own them. Everything I have is temporary, you know. So if anything's stolen, which has happened, it's okay. Everything's replaceable. So world peace before December 31st, 2019. Today is the beginning of March. So many blessings. Bye-bye for now.